Behind Romania's majestic Carpathian peaks and cherished traditions lies a hidden narrative, a story of forbidden love, enduring repression, and unyielding resilience. In this video, I will try to uncover the complex, often silenced history of homosexuality in Romania, where shadows of the past shape the struggles and triumphs of today. From my perspective, understanding the present requires examining the past, including its darker chapters. History shapes cultural attitudes and ideologies. In Romanian culture, restorative nostalgia is particularly evident today, a glorification of a mythicized past or oppressive systems which, the people idealizing them today, have never experienced firsthand. This tendency to perpetuate such ideologies can be attributed to various factors, including a partially reformed educational system. The legacy of communist-era education, with its emphasis on promoting a revised, ideologically driven version of history, combined with the Orthodox Church's centuries-long influence on politics, continues to shape Romania's political and social landscape. To understand the history of homosexuality in Romania, we must go back to ancient times. In Dacia, before the Roman conquest, little is known about societal attitudes towards same-sex relationships. However, under Roman rule, societal norms shifted to reflect the broader customs of the empire. The writings of Roman historian Suetonius describe the prevalence of same-sex relationships among the Roman elite, including emperors such as Nero, whose relationships with male companions were publicly acknowledged. One notable example from the Roman Empire is Emperor Hadrian's relationship with Antinous, which was immortalized in statues and inscriptions across the empire.
Antinous was one of Hadrian's favorites, and he died in Egypt, either by falling into the Nile or by being sacrificed, as Hadrian honored him by establishing a city in his name and setting up statues and oracles. Hadrian grieved for him excessively, going so far as to deify him, and he established a cult in his honor.
While there are no specific artifacts from Dacia directly tied to same-sex relationships, other provinces have yielded evidence of such practices. Inscriptions and imagery, such as those found in Pompeii, provide insight into how same-sex relationships were an accepted part of Roman culture, although often viewed through the lens of societal hierarchy. The medieval principalities of Wallachia and Moldavia were heavily influenced by Byzantine Eastern Orthodox doctrines, which viewed same-sex desire as sinful. Orthodox Christianity shaped all aspects of governance, and religious figures like Saint Augustine and Saint John Chrysostom condemned homosexual acts as immoral. This led to severe legal and social repercussions for any open expression of same-sex desire.
For I say that not only are their passions satanic, but their lives are diabolical. For the murderer only separates the soul from the body, whereas these destroy the soul within the body. What greater evil can there be than this? Men with men commit shameless acts and receive in their own persons the due penalty for their error. The disorder of the soul leads to disorder in the body. Sins against nature, like those of the Sodomites, are abominable and deserve punishment whenever and wherever they are committed.
The concept of homosexuality as an identity did not exist, and same-sex relations were labeled as sodomy or unnatural acts. Byzantine law, including the Codex Justinianus and Novel 77, imposed severe penalties for homosexual acts.
Certain men, abandoned to the baseness of lust, commit unmentionable sins, which we learn from Holy Scripture bring upon those who practice them the wrath of God and the ruin of cities through famine, plague, and earthquakes. We decree that anyone found to engage in such illicit and shameful acts shall be subjected to capital punishment, so that the disgraceful behavior, which brings death to the soul and peril to the state, may be eradicated. Anyone who is found guilty of such abominable and unnatural crimes shall be condemned to death, as these sins bring ruin upon cities and individuals, provoking the wrath of God.
These laws, influenced by Orthodox Christian teachings, reflected the Church's role in shaping both religious and secular governance, with harsher punishments for clergy members involved in same-sex relations. Medieval people in the Romanian principalities, influenced by Byzantine culture and Orthodox Christianity, understood sodomy as a serious offense. The Pravila lui Matei Basarab, printed in 1652, was a legal collection approved by church authorities, becoming the official code of the Eastern Orthodox Church in Romania. It integrated homosexuality into the concept of sodomite, or sodomlan, which also included lesbians or men who had sex with women in unconventional ways. The law prescribed harsh punishments, including death for various forms of sodomy, with clergymen facing severe consequences, including the loss of status and execution. However, some historical accounts indirectly confirm that these laws did not always apply to rulers. Although historical records from medieval Wallachia and Moldavia are limited regarding the sexual orientation of the rulers, some historians and chroniclers provide evidence of homosexual inclinations in certain cases. One clear case of a bisexual ruler highlighted by some historians is that of Ștefăniță Lupu. A chronicler who lived during that era specifically noted Ștefăniță's bisexual orientation in one of his well-known writings.
Spoiled, he engaged in childish or rather foolish behaviors. He did not concern himself with the affairs of the realm, but instead indulged in debauchery with both men and women.
According to Romanian folklore, during Ștefăniță's reign, Moldavia allegedly suffered from a severe drought and people resorted to eating ground balraș instead of bread, hence his nickname Papura Vodă, or in English, the Balraș ruler. Another curious case is that of another Moldavian ruler, Alexandru Iliaș. Chronicler Miron Costin noted that Alexandru Iliaș was not skilled in governance and instead spent most of his time with a man who arrived earlier at the Moldavian court. Batiste Veveli managed to gain the trust of the rulers and the nobility, amassing significant wealth from the lands which he owned.
When Alexandru Vodă ascended the throne, a wolf changes its fur but not its nature. He continued as before. The boyars tried to manage the affairs of the country as best they could, while the ruler spent most of his time with Batiste Veveli.
It is also said that the name of a street in today's central Bucharest, Batiste Street, originates from Batiste Veveli. He is believed to have had a house and a beautiful garden where the street now lies. Other examples are more speculative and not confirmed through concrete evidence. For example, Iliaș Rareș, the grandson of Ștefan the Great and ruler of Moldavia, was well known for his extravagant sex parties, as mentioned by chroniclers like Grigore Ureche. According to Ureche, Rareș embraced Ottoman court customs. Another historian notes that Rareș spent much of his time with his favorite Ottoman advisor, Hadır, described as his teacher and wizard. Iliaș Rareș eventually converted to Islam, abdicated the throne, and moved to Istanbul.
Having young Turkish advisors beside him, during the day he would spend time in delight, and at night with Turkish women, indulging in carnal pleasures, he departed from Christian customs. During the day he appeared to be a Christian, but at night he would indulge in the freedoms of the Mohammedans.
It is important to mention that, in the Ottoman Empire, especially among the elite, relationships between men and younger men were often tolerated or even romanticized in literature and poetry. Therefore, a harem could also include male concubines. Based on this historical evidence, we can only speculate that Iliaș Rareș might have been bisexual, given that he spent most of his time with Hadır, who was also known for his sexual adventures, and given that Rareș converted to Islam and moved to Istanbul to continue his lifestyle. These cases, though rare, highlight the complexities of sexuality in medieval Romanian courts. Based on this evidence, it is clear that, despite the harsh penalties imposed on common citizens by the Church for various transgressions, certain rulers were not subject to similar consequences. As Romania underwent modernization in the 19th century, its legal system began to reflect Western European influences. The penal code introduced by Alexandru Ioan Cuza in 1864, largely inspired by the French penal code which decriminalized homosexuality in 1791, did not distinguish between heterosexual and homosexual relationships. After the Great Union of 1918, Cuza's code was extended to the newly unified Kingdom of Romania. However, Transylvania maintained a level of autonomy and continued to enforce its 1878 penal code. which included provisions against sexual violence, including same-sex acts. Homosexuality was criminalized in Romania in 1937, during the authoritarian regime of King Carol II, coinciding with the rapid rise of Nazism in Europe. In 1938, Article 431 of Carol II's Penal Code was amended to include the following provisions.
Sexual inversion acts committed between men or between women, if they cause public scandal, constitute the offense of sexual inversion and are punishable with correctional imprisonment from 6 months to 2 years. If the act was committed against a person under 19 years of age, the punishment is correctional imprisonment from 1 to 3 years.
The communist regime, which took power after World War II, intensified this repression. Under the regime of Gheorghe Gheorghiu Dej and later Nicolae Ceausescu, repression intensified. Homosexuality was deemed a decadent bourgeois indulgence, incompatible with the ideals of the working class. The infamous Article 200 of the 1968 Penal Code made homosexual acts punishable by up to 5 years in prison. Article 200 became a tool of terror and abuse against sexual minorities in Romania. More than just a punishment, it served as a means for the Ceausescu regime to strengthen social control. Anyone deemed suspicious or disloyal to the state could be targeted under Article 200, even if they were not a sexual minority. For the Securitate, the secret police, during Ceausescu's rule, Article 200 was used as a means of blackmail. Many homosexuals detained by the militia were forced to become informers, with those who refused being imprisoned and abused. Under constant surveillance by Romania's secret police, the Securitate, queer individuals lived in fear of exposure. Arrests were often arbitrary, based on rumors or denunciations. Once accused, a person could face public humiliation, loss of employment, and imprisonment. False evidence was easily fabricated, and accusations of homosexuality could socially ruin an individual, leading to imprisonment and re-education. Informing on others often led to further imprisonment, even for those who were forced into cooperating with the authorities. This period marked a dark chapter of state-sponsored persecution and social control over sexual minorities. Due to the lack of bars or social venues and the constant fear of neighbors who could serve as informants for the Securitate, the gay community under the communist regime had no option but to meet in parks or train stations. Nearly every city had an unofficial meeting spot in a park or station, the most famous being the Park of the National Opera in Bucharest. The danger of inviting a partner home was immense. Those who were caught faced imprisonment, torture, and harsh punishment, with even short encounters often resulting in years behind bars. Despite the risks, Romania's sexual minority found ways to resist. Underground networks and secret gatherings provided a lifeline for those seeking connection and solidarity. Ion Negoițescu was a gay anti-communist critic and dissident. He was persecuted by Ceausescu's regime due to his views and his sexual orientation. He spent 3 years in prison and, during a brief period of liberalization, continued opposing political restrictions, drawing the attention of Romania's secret police. In 1977, he joined a protest against Ceausescu but was forced to withdraw. Later, he moved to West Germany where he continued his writing. Despite marrying 3 times, he felt isolated due to his need to conceal his sexuality. He attempted to end his life 4 times throughout his life due to personal and political pressures. The fall of communism in 1989 marked the beginning of a slow and arduous journey towards LGBTQ rights. Yet, Article 200 remained in place until 2001. Activist organizations such as Accept played a crucial role in lobbying for change. In July 1994, the Constitutional Court ruled that laws against homosexuality violated human rights and declared them unconstitutional. There was resistance to decriminalizing homosexual relations, influenced by essentialist and nationalist beliefs which viewed homosexuality as a threat to traditional family values. Romania was the last Orthodox country to decriminalize homosexual acts. This change was necessary to meet the political criteria for joining the European Union, which included the protection of minorities. Transgender people face similar challenges, but a significant victory occurred in April 1995 when a Bucharest court allowed Sorin Rațiu, a 19-year-old, to undergo the first gender reassignment surgery in Romania. Today, Romania's LGBTQ community enjoys greater visibility and legal protections than ever before, yet challenges remain. In 2018, a national referendum sought to redefine marriage as between a man and a woman. Although the referendum failed due to low turnout, it underscored ongoing societal divisions. Romania remains a conservative country regarding LGBTQ rights, with legal and societal barriers persisting for LGBTQ individuals. Same-sex marriage or legal partnership is still prohibited, as the Civil Code allows marriage only between opposite-sex couples. Additionally, the 2024 Rainbow Europe Index ranked Romania with a low score of 19% regarding the respect for human rights of LGBTQ+ people, reflecting inadequate legislation, widespread discrimination, and a hostile social environment. Each step forward honors the countless individuals who lived and loved in silence, paving the way for a more inclusive future. The history of homosexuality in Romania is one of shadows and light, silence and defiance. By uncovering these hidden histories, we not only honor the past but also inspire a future where love knows no bounds.